YouTube EV road tripper Bryan Hauer has a channel that I'm pretty engaged in. He does road tripping in a Tesla Model Y and is pretty hardcore. Right now he's in the middle of a 30-day Western United States tour that I'm pretty engaged in. And lots of things that I use when I go glamping came from his channel. A few of them I've just kind of picked up along the way from other sources, but I thought I'd go over all the things that I use when I glamp in my EV. So if you're not familiar with the term glamping, it means glamorous camping. And one difference with an EV versus like an RV or an internal combustion engine car is that if you're sleeping in an EV, you can keep the environment running because there's no tailpipe emissions. So if there's a way that you could sleep inside your car, you can still have environment running and be very comfortable, and don't have to worry about being asphyxiated from the fumes. It really opens up opportunity for road tripping. I've done several road trips in my EV where I've lived off free public charging throughout the route and brought my own food, slept in the back of my car, and ended up spending $0 for the entire 2 or 3 day trip. Those videos are posted to my channel in earlier videos underneath the nomenclature EV road trip into charging desert. Anyway, I wanted to go over the glamping equipment that I typically bring with me. And there's one of two ways you can go glamping. You could either bring a tent, a shower, a bathroom, and all these things to go completely off grid. Or you could bring just bare essentials and plan to use public facilities for a restroom, shower every couple of days, perhaps checking into a hotel every so often if you're on an extended road trip. But I find for my road trips that are typically 2 or 3 days maximum, this glamping equipment has been sufficient. And so let me just go over what I use. This is a little inverter off a cigarette lighter that has a plug in it. Now you can't run anything more than, let's see, this is 150 watts. So for instance, this kettle here, and I'll get to that in a second, pulls about 1600 watts. So you can't power a kettle off it, but you could power some things. And I find having a Swiss Army knife inverter like this that has USB ports and a standard NEMA 110 outlet on it is frequently useful. So I use this for lots of things, charging some of my devices and whatnot. And it's small. You can go big and get yourself what's called a power station. Those cost more and they're heavy. Plus they're bulky. They tend to be about the size of, I don't know, 2 loaves of bread or something. And because they've got heavy batteries in them, they put weight in your car. I don't really have a need to carry power with me because generally if I'm going completely off the grid, I'm only there for a couple of hours. I don't stay off the grid for days at a time. So I can normally get to an outlet somewhere if I need to, or just use the USB from this device in order to carry me through. So the way I glamp in the back of my Volvo is with this air mattress. And I'll show you what it looks like extended in just a second. But this was a special air mattress that's designed for laying down in the back of an SUV because the shape is a little bit like a T because of the wheel wells. So the mattress is designed in order to have a couple different sections that can inflate in order to go around the space of the wheel wells and still give you ample space up near where your head is. So the air mattress for me, just because of my age, I just don't sleep well on hard dirt anymore, is unfortunately a necessity. I need to be comfortable when I'm sleeping on a surface, and this air mattress does the trick for me. Anyway, it looks like this. It's also pretty common when EV road trippers glamp in order to get window covers for privacy and in order to keep the light from intruding in while they're sleeping. I do use a windshield cover, which negates a lot of the light, but I don't get window covers for all of my windows. For that, what I use is just a USB headband that's got, I'm sorry, not a USB, a Bluetooth headband that's got built-in speakers. And let me just show you what this looks like real quick. What this does is it negates any noise from where I'm sleeping. Perhaps I'm near a road, or there's a campsite where people are talking and having a party near me. This negates the noise, and it also blocks out any light because it's covered over my eyes. So I don't have a privacy aspect, but at my age, I figure if someone wants to look through the windows and see an old fat guy sleeping, they're welcome to. So for me, privacy is not that big of a concern. I could see if you were younger or lady or something and you wanted to have your windows blacked out, it'd probably make sense. But this is a lot smaller than lugging around a full set of window covers. And so for me, this works. Also, something that's important, not only important, I would say essential, is coffee. I can't really function without morning coffee. Now, I can just walk into a gas station and buy myself a cup of coffee. Lots of times, though, where I'm actually sleeping for the night is in a campsite. So in a campsite, I can't just walk and buy a cup of coffee. If I'm boondocking somewhere like a Walmart parking lot or a Cracker Barrel parking lot, then yeah, sure, I could swing by the local 7-Eleven and pick up a cup of coffee on my way to continue my route. But if I'm in a campsite, I cannot. And so I needed to figure out a way of making coffee. And what I use is a French press. So I bring coffee grounds, and then the next thing I need is hot water. My primary choice is a kettle. So the kettle works perfectly. It'll heat up a full thing of water, which gets me all the coffee I need for the day in about, I don't know, I think it's like 5 minutes, 3 minutes, something like that. But the problem is it uses more electricity than this device can output, or anything in my car. In order to get a power station that would give the 1600 watts necessary for this kettle, I'd have to spend probably over $1,000, less than $2,000, somewhere in that range. And we're talking about a cup of coffee. I'm not going to spend $2,000 just to get a cup of coffee. So normally I could find an outlet somewhere. The most common places I find outlets that are free to the public are interstate rest areas. For some reason, interstate rest areas seem to have a code where there need to be outlets near baby changing tables in the men's restroom. So there's normally an outlet there. There's normally an outlet in the front entryway where there is drinking fountains. And I think they use those outlets in order to clean the floors or something, but they're open to the public and you can use them. And so I've used those outlets. Anywhere you could find an outlet, and I've actually found in multiple places, and you're just using it for 3 minutes, so it's not like you need to leave $5 for the use of the electricity. It's like a minuscule amount of electricity. You just need an outlet somewhere. And so I find 90% of the time this works. But there are places where I cannot find an outlet. So if I have to go to my backup plan, that's where this comes into play. It's called a BioLite. And let me just show you how this works. This thing is freaking awesome. I really like it. The one problem it does have is that you need to burn wood in order to make it work. And I don't like carrying the smell of wood on my clothing all day, just in order to get a cup of coffee. So this is a last resort. But let me show you how it works. You have some fire starter sticks in order to get going, and you just need to find some branches, twigs, is really all you need. You need a pretty good amount of it because you'll keep feeding it in here. And I'll show you what it looks like. You could also make soup in here. You could also cook on it. I have done that before. I've cooked a steak on it and it did work good. The BioLite uses the thermal energy to also power a little USB port. And let me just bring this to the camera so you can see. This is the main device of the BioLite, and you can see right down there is a USB port. And once this gets hot, this will start allowing you to charge whatever you connect to it. So if you're way off the grid and you're looking for a source of energy to charge your phone, you can do so with the BioLite. You just need twigs. All right, so this sits in here just like that. This will sit on top just like that. The stand opens up just like that. Let me move the air mattress off so you can see. And it will sit. You obviously need something besides wood to sit it on. And then you feed sticks into here, into this reservoir. Now, once it gets hot, this device will start blowing a fan into this reservoir, so the fire gets good and hot real quick. In fact, it'll start blowing like a blowtorch really quick. So when you put this on top, there's scorch marks that you can see, and what happens is the fire will actually start blowing out really hot. So it'll boil water probably in about 10 minutes, and considering we're talking about off the grid and just using twigs, that's pretty good for this amount of hot water. And this container, it says 1.5 liters, 6 cups, is sufficient for me to get my coffee in the morning. So that setup is my backup plan. But then normally after I do that, as I said, I'll start the day smelling like wood smoke, which is not my preferred option. Okay. The other thing I bring with me is an air pump, because electric vehicles don't have many reasons to have mechanical breakdown, but one thing that they are susceptible for is flat tires. And I use this just in case my tires start to deflate. I do find that if I have a large elevation gain, sometimes the tire pressure sensors will get a little bit wonky, and it'll start to say, hey, your tire pressure is off, and I'll go and check it. And this actually has a pressure sensor, so I could check to see what the current pressure is, and if I need to let pressure out or add pressure back, I can do so with this using the cigarette lighter, the 12-volt cigarette lighter inside the car. And so I haven't needed it often, but I have used it once or twice, and it is comforting to know that when I'm way far away from everything, that I have an alternative to keep me going if it's needed. And I can tell you the few times that I've needed it, it was definitely nice to have. As most people know, electric vehicles typically do not carry spare tires. So it's a tow truck call if you don't have some way of keeping going. Now, I mean, if you have a blowout, you're kind of dead in the water, but if it's a leak, you can keep going and limp along with something like this. Okay, so for food, I find doing wraps in some form of Tupperware and then putting them in a cooler works pretty good. I just use a rice and maybe some chicken or ground beef or something, and then I make a whole bunch of wraps. And I normally eat those breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then I bring snacks like granola bars. Yogurt is a pretty good thing to bring, cheese sticks, bags of chips, some fruit, lots of bottled water, and all those things do tend to take up space. So for the things that need to be refrigerated, I used to use just normal coolers, but I found that they would start to leak from the melted ice after a day or so. And my wife got me this for Father's Day. This is an electric cooler. I showed it in my last video, but I thought I'd go over it a little bit more in depth here. It's very large, and I can fit just a ton of food in here, and it will keep it cold for as long as that has electricity. And what this device is, it's an add-on that allows you to just use a normal wall plug to get a cigarette lighter. And what you're supposed to do is start cooling it down about 3 hours before you leave. And that creates a cold layer inside the insulation just to kind of help you out a little bit. Instead of starting warm and then drawing down to cold, you actually start cold. The one disadvantage is that this device does have a fan that makes a bit of a whining noise as you're going along, which can be a bit of a distraction. But if it's in the back of the car, like where I keep mine, it's not a problem. Or if you have your music on or whatever, but it does not run silent. So There are models that are more expensive in the $600–700 range that will run silent. This is just an inexpensive igloo cooler, and for me, it gets the job done. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to go over is this, and this did come off Bryan Hauer's YouTube channel. Let me explain what this is. Sometimes when you're glamping and you have your air mattress in the back and you have your food things next to you in the front passenger seat and you're cruising along and it's time to eat, if there's nowhere to sit down, and lots of times there's not in either boondocking place or campsites, normally there's a picnic table, but if you're just out there in the sticks somewhere or you're boondocking at a Cracker Barrel, there's not really anywhere to eat. And I find that I fumble around a lot. What this is, let me bring this up to show you. I just got this. You see it connects to the steering wheel and provides a flat surface to either eat on or do some office work from. This little device here, if you look at Bryan Hauer's YouTube channel, he uses quite a bit. Sometimes he'll do his cooking out on his little Yakima fold-out carry container and eat at a picnic table. But if he's inside, normally you'll see him eating on this. It seems small, like not that big of a deal, but it is really nice just to have a surface that you could eat at. And it just slips right on the steering wheel. It gives you a nice flat surface. You put your drink here. Obviously there's cup holders, but I don't know, those might be in use. And then you just put it between the seats when you're done. Very convenient. So anyway, I don't go out with a tent. I do sleep in the car, as I mentioned. And it works well for me. This is kind of like all the gear that I take. Change of clothes in a backpack and sleep in the car with the environments on. And I can just have a ton of fun going to do exploring road trips in an EV. I find there's really a sense of liberty that I experience when I'm doing an EV road trip, because in a situation like this where I'm sleeping in the car and getting energy from chargers, either living off the land or using paid infrastructure, I could go forever. I mean, it's so little money and it's such a nice experience that it has become a hobby of which I'm quite passionate about as of late. We got off a cruise during the summertime, and my youngest son is getting ready to go to college, and we've had a few other events during the summer. So I haven't had an opportunity to do any of those road trips as of late, but likely once fall comes, I'll be out and about doing them again. Anyway, if you're thinking of doing EV road tripping and are looking for a glamping setup, these are the items that I use, and for me, this works. Thanks for watching.